Found out about a year and a half ago, the cancer I have is uncurable. Prostate cancer.
The moment I learned about my dad's condition, the first thing that came through my head was I need to get out the military. And then pandemic hit.
I have to really be very careful, the people that I'm around, so I distance myself. I think that's the hardest with all my children. They couldn't get to me, and I couldn't get to them.
Every range of emotion you can feel about a person, I felt that about my dad. Even though I wanted to be there, I wanted to see him, the more responsible thing for me to do was to stay away. Definitely believe that technology can bring people closer together. If there was a way for me to squeeze the life out of me into him, I would. You gotta close your eyes.
Oh.
What an experience.
I got my hug.
You did, you got your hug. I got my hug too.
This is the first time I cried, man, since my father died. All we got is each other at the end of the day. It made my days be long. But if not, we got this memory.
You're right. If not, we got this memory.
What do you get when you combine a winning team of sports event planners and exceptional venues capable of hosting just about any event you can toss at it? Sports Hampton. Conveniently located in the heart of coastal Virginia, between Virginia Beach and Williamsburg, Hampton is ready to host your next sporting event. Hampton is home to more than a dozen indoor and outdoor sporting facilities of all sizes, so you're guaranteed to find the right space for your event. Hampton's indoor facilities are designed to accommodate unique events requiring multi-purpose exhibition floor space that is flexible enough for tournament action. Hampton's mild mid-Atlantic climate is ideal for year-round outdoor competition. The city's versatility extends to its waterways, presenting endless opportunities for triathlons, sailing and hydroplane regattas, lifeguard competitions, sand soccer, beach volleyball, and more. Conveniently located, Hampton's competition spaces are in close proximity to an array of hotel accommodations, from convention-quality suites to limited-service lodges. With over 200 attractions located in Hampton and coastal Virginia, there's no limit to the activities that traveling groups and families can enjoy. So, name your game. Hampton's team of sports-minded professionals will rise to the occasion, ready to apply their extensive knowledge to service your event, regardless of scope and size, ensuring you come out a winner. To take your game to the next level, book your event with Sports Hampton.
And we're just really proud that we're giving this city and this area something to be really, really proud of.
Soccer fans on the peninsula have packed the stands to watch Lionsbridge FC ever since the team was founded 3 years ago.
We hoped that it would be really, be something that people would gravitate to and be passionate about. But I don't think any of us expected it to come to these levels.
You know, some of the best crowds in the league, and we feel like we're one of the best teams in the league as well.
Good stuff, good habits.
It's only year 4, and already those fans have a championship contender, playoff bound for the first time ever.
I'm a big believer that, when you start something off as a sports program, if you can do something within the first 3 years, you're in great shape.
Well done!
Featuring a collection of international and local players, Lionsbridge is part of the USL League 2, one of 84 teams from all over the country. They're one of 32 clubs in the postseason.
To make playoffs and be in a spot we're in, sitting second in the table going into the last game of the season, I think we're in a fantastic spot and really excited to play next week.
It'll be home field advantage for Lionsbridge FC. They'll host a 4-team region tournament right here on their home field at CNU the weekend of the 17th and the 18th. And how big of an advantage is that? Lionsbridge FC has not only drawn some of the biggest home crowds in the league this season, they have not lost on this field. 8 wins, 0 losses, 1 tie.
I think it definitely gives us an advantage, especially when we get 2,000, 3,000 fans out there cheering their hearts out. It lifts you up.
With the fantastic fan base we've got behind us, I think it's going to be a very intimidating place for any team to come and play against us at. Now, we're just really, really excited to ultimately try and keep this season alive and to keep playing for as long as we can and keep giving fantastic support something to cheer about.
At least the first 2 rounds are at CNU, but there could be more. 5 wins to the championship. In Newport News, Nathan Epstein for the Sports.
found out about a year and a half ago, the cancer I have is uncurable. Prostate cancer.
The moment I learned about my dad's condition, the first thing that came through my head was I need to get out the military. And then pandemic hit.
I have to really be very careful, the people that I'm around, so I distance myself. I think that was the hardest with all my children. They couldn't get to me, and I couldn't get to them.
Every range of emotion you can feel about a person, I felt that about my dad. Even though I wanted to be there, I wanted to see him, the more responsible thing for me to do was to stay away. Definitely believe that technology can bring people closer together. If there was a way for me to squeeze the life out of me into him, I would. You gotta close your eyes.
Oh.
What an experience.
I got my hug.
You did. You got your hug. I got my hug, too.
This is the first time I cried, man, since my father died. All we got is each other at the end of the day. And may my days be long. But if not, we got this memory.
You're right. If not, we got this memory.
What do you get when you combine a winning team of sports event planners and exceptional venues capable of hosting just about any event you can toss at it? Sports Hampton. Conveniently located in the heart of coastal Virginia, between Virginia Beach and Williamsburg, Hampton is ready to host your next sporting event. Hampton is home to more than a dozen indoor and outdoor sporting facilities of all sizes, so you're guaranteed to find the right space for your event. Hampton's indoor facilities are designed to accommodate unique events requiring multi-purpose exhibition floor space that is flexible enough for tournament action. Hampton's mild mid-Atlantic climate is ideal for year-round outdoor competition. The city's versatility extends to its waterways, presenting endless opportunities for triathlons, sailing and hydroplane regattas, lifeguard competitions, sand soccer, beach volleyball, and more. Conveniently located, Hampton's competition spaces are in close proximity to an array of hotel accommodations, from convention-quality suites to limited-service lodging. With over 200 attractions located in Hampton and coastal Virginia, there's no limit to the activities that traveling groups and families can enjoy. So, name your game. Hampton's team of sports-minded professionals will rise to the occasion, ready to apply their extensive knowledge to service your event, regardless of scope and size, ensuring you come out a winner. To take your game to the next level, book your event with Sports Hampton.
And we're just really proud that we're giving this city and this area something to be really, really proud of.
Soccer fans on the peninsula have packed the stands to watch Lionsbridge FC ever since the team was founded 3 years ago.
We hoped that it would be really, be something that people would gravitate to and be passionate about. But I don't think any of us expected it to come to these levels.
You know, some of the best crowds in the league, and we feel like we're one of the best teams in the league as well.
Good stuff, good habits.
It's only year 4, and already those fans have a championship contender, playoff bound for the first time ever.
I'm a big believer that, when you start something off as a sports program, if you can do something within the first 3 years, you're in great shape.
Well done!
Featuring a collection of international and local players, Lionsbridge is part of the USL League 2, one of 84 teams from all over the country. They're one of 32 clubs in the postseason.
To make playoffs and be in a spot we're in, sitting second in the table, going into the last game of the season, I think we're in a fantastic spot and really excited to play next week.
It'll be home field advantage for Lionsbridge FC. They'll host a 4-team region tournament right here on their home field at CNU the weekend of the 17th and the 18th. And how big of an advantage is that? Lionsbridge FC has not only drawn some of the biggest home crowds in the league this season, they have not lost on this field. 8 wins, 0 losses, 1 tie.
I think it definitely gives us an advantage, especially when we get 2,000, 3,000 fans out there cheering their hearts out. It lifts you up.
With the fantastic fan base we've got behind us, I think it's going to be a very intimidating place for any team to come and play against us at. Now, we're just really, really excited to ultimately try and keep this season alive and to keep playing for as long as we can and keep giving fantastic support something to cheer about.
At least the first 2 rounds are at CNU, but there could be more. 5 wins to the championship. In Newport News, Nathan Epstein for the Sports.
Found out about a year and a half ago, the cancer I have is uncurable. Prostate cancer.
The moment I learned about my dad's condition, the first thing that came through my head was I need to get out the military. And then pandemic hit.
I have to really be very careful, the people that I'm around, so I distance myself. I think that was the hardest with all my children. They couldn't get to me, and I couldn't get to them.
Every range of emotion you can feel about a person, I felt that about my dad. Even though I wanted to be there, I wanted to see him, the more responsible thing for me to do was to stay away. Definitely believe that technology can bring people closer together. If there was a way for me to squeeze the life out of me into him, I would. You gotta close your eyes.
Oh.
What an experience.
I got my hug.
You did. You got your hug. I got my hug, too.
This is the first time I cried, man, since my father died. All we got is each other at the end of the day. And may my days be long. But if not, we got this memory.
You're right. If not, we got this memory.
What do you get when you combine a winning team of sports event planners and exceptional venues capable of hosting just about any event you can toss at it? Sports Hampton. Conveniently located in the heart of coastal Virginia, between Virginia Beach and Williamsburg, Hampton is ready to host your next sporting event. Hampton is home to more than a dozen indoor and outdoor sporting facilities of all sizes, so you're guaranteed to find the right space for your event. Hampton's indoor facilities are designed to accommodate unique events requiring multi-purpose exhibition floor space that is flexible enough for tournament action. Hampton's mild mid-Atlantic climate is ideal for year-round outdoor competition. The city's versatility extends to its waterways, presenting endless opportunities for triathlons, sailing and hydroplane regattas, lifeguard competitions, sand soccer, beach volleyball, and more. Conveniently located, Hampton's competition spaces are in close proximity to an array of hotel accommodations, from convention-quality suites to limited-service lodging. With over 200 attractions located in Hampton and coastal Virginia, there's no limit to the activities that traveling groups and families can enjoy. So, name your game. Hampton's team of sports-minded professionals will rise to the occasion, ready to apply their extensive knowledge to service your event, regardless of scope and size, ensuring you come out a winner. To take your game to the next level, book your event with Sports Hampton.
Good afternoon. I'm Bob McKeown, CEO of the Virginia Peninsula Chamber of Commerce, and I'd like to welcome you to the latest event in the Chamber's 757 Vision Eyes on the Future series, Sports in the 757. The last year and a half has obviously presented all of us with some unique challenges, professionally and personally. There are always challenges ahead, and we may not have completely emerged from the tunnel yet, but we are definitely seeing some good signs of recovery. We must continue to focus our collective efforts on recovering and rebuilding and building future resilience. This series has focused on efforts that we should all support and of which we can be very proud and which provide great excitement. Prior to the pandemic, the Hampton Roads region was beginning to see a resurgence in our regional collaborative efforts and some very promising signs of economic growth and vitality. We must now recommit our regional efforts to reignite that energy, optimism, and sense of collaboration. In keeping with the Virginia Peninsula Chamber's mission to connect business with opportunity through facilitation, advocacy, communication, and education, we are hosting this monthly series of moderated panels in which we will take a look at some of our strengths and weaknesses in an effort to inspire, inform, and drive action. The Chamber's mission includes working with local partners to help create conditions in the community that are conducive to economic growth, prosperity, and upward mobility for all of our citizens. Today's topic, Sports in the 757, is a multifaceted subject which has great potential as an economic driver from many perspectives. Sports in general have many positive impacts for a community. They can drive enthusiasm, pride, togetherness, camaraderie, and unity. They can also encourage healthier lifestyles, certainly among our younger population. Sports teams often raise money and support charitable causes. Major events boost local economies, and sports tourism is a multi-billion-dollar industry in the United States. Hampton Roads has some wonderful assets in the world of sports, including great and diverse geography, several universities, friendly climate, professional teams in several sports, and a great history of talented 757 athletes who have succeeded on the national and international level. The sum total of those assets, if put to good use, will make Hampton Roads a mecca of sports tourism, lead to stronger economic prosperity, and will also serve to enhance our local social capital. Today's very talented panel, moderated by Will Driscoll of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, will highlight some of our assets, future plans, and explore ways that we can come together as a region to realize that great potential. This is only the beginning of a conversation that hopefully will drive future action. Please listen and participate. We would love to hear your thoughts as we move forward. Before we get started, I'd like to first recognize some distinguished viewers in today's audience. From Senator Mark Warner's office, Drew Lumpkin. Mayor McKinley Price from the city of Newport News. Delegate Shelley Simons, Delegate Marcia Price, and Sharon Scott from the Newport News City Council. I would also like to thank today's presenting sponsor, also our series sponsor, Cox Virginia. Cox is a highly valued partner of the Chamber, and their sponsorship for these events make it possible to offer them to you at no cost. Representing Cox today is Sarah Buck. Sarah is the Senior Manager of Public Affairs for Cox Virginia. Her focus is working towards building a better future through business development opportunities, digital equity programs, and corporate social responsibility. Sarah currently serves on the Virginia Peninsula Chamber's Board of Directors and the Hampton Roads Chamber's Communication Committee. Sarah has a bachelor's degree in communication studies from Virginia Tech. Go Hokies. In 2016, Sarah was recognized as one of Hampton Roads' top 40 under 40 by Inside Business and is a Girl Scout Council of Colonial Coast future famous former. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Sarah Buck.
Thanks, Bob. I always enjoy the introduction you give to me, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And it's great to be here again today, bringing together the business community. Now, a common thread between sports and sports organizations and Cox is that we bring people together. Sports, of course, bring people together physically, while the team at Cox brings people together through technology. But as we experience more of the Internet of Things, sports is also fueled by technology. Take, for example, Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, home of the Raiders, the most connected stadium in America, and it just so happens to be powered by Cox. The stadium has more access points, 1,700 to be exact, than our president's hometown in Iowa. And to paraphrase our president, Pat Esser, a generation ago when stadiums were built, it was all about beer, brats, and bathrooms. But today we're adding another B to that list, and that's broadband, because people want to be connected. They want to be able to share their experience, and they want the same convenience of access to information and apps to follow them into the stadium while they're there enjoying their sports experience. So thanks to the 40 gig circuit that's running into Allegiant Stadium, fans will have a very unique experience. They can use an app to order food to their seat. They won't miss a second of the game because there's 227 miles of cable connecting 2,200 television screens throughout the stadium. Now, I share all of this, and I know it's in Las Vegas, and we're talking about the 757, but I share all of this today because this is the future, and it's happening today. And it's not only for sports. When people are out enjoying things that they love, participating in sports, cheering on their family and friends at sporting events, it's an immersive experience, and technology is powering that experience. And so with that, I'm excited about today's conversation to hear more about what's going on in the sports world in the 757 and how it is really fueling some really exciting opportunities in the region. Today, it is my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Will Driscoll, Executive Director of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame. Will joined the organization in 2017 to help with marketing and fundraising, organizing events such as Who's on First, which brought current MLB and former University of Virginia baseball players Ryan Zimmerman, Chris Taylor, and Mark Reynolds to the Virginia Beach Funny Bone, and 7-5 seventh inning stretch, which brought Chesapeake natives and MLB players David Wright and Michael Cuddier to the Zeters American Dream Theater. The Madness Begins brought local college basketball coaches and sports reporters, including CBS Sports' Seth Davis, together to talk college hoops before the 2018-2019 season. Will certainly has a passion and respect for sports, which is evident in his commitment to the Sports Hall of Fame and his advocacy for sports in the region as a whole. Please join me in welcoming today's moderator, Will Driscoll.
Thank you, Sarah. I'd also like to thank the Peninsula Chamber of Commerce and Bob McKenna for asking me to participate in this discussion. Sports has obviously played a huge role in my life, and I've learned so much about the overall impact of sports beyond just the box score and the results of my favorite teams. Here in Hampton Roads, we touch so many corners of the sports market. We are blessed to have professional sports franchises that call the 757 home. We have 6 NCAA sanctioned programs, as well as numerous junior and community college programs that are located within our borders. But we also have world-class venues that help us attract sports tourism events. And I think the part that makes me the most excited and brings me the greatest pride, and I think we should all take great pride in, is the fact that we are a hotbed for developing top-level athletes through our youth and high school programs. And in fact, you might be watching a future Hall of Famer every time you go to a high school sporting event. So very exciting times to be here in the 757. I'm happy to be here today. Needless to say, I love sports history and I love the history that's been made here, but I'm even more excited about the present and the future of sports in the 757. So as far as today's event goes, we're going to hear from our panelists, and I'll introduce them in just a second. They're going to discuss some important topics pertaining to our sports culture and its economic and community impacts here in the 757, but we also want to hear from you. So if you're following along, please, if you have questions, send them into the chat. We're going to do our best to monitor that, to make sure we can get these questions over to our panelists. And with that being said, let me go ahead and introduce you to the panel, and we'll get this Sports in the 757 event started. Mary Frugeri is the director of the Hampton Convention and Visitors Bureau. You can follow them on social media at Visit Hampton VA. Mary, tell us a little bit about your background and why this is an exciting time for sports here in Hampton Roads.
Well, my background, I have to say, I've been with the City of Hampton at the Convention and Visitor Bureau for 25 years, and I can't believe I'm saying that. But I began as a sales manager for the CVB, and sports was one of my market segments. So I worked with the AAU Junior Olympics during their first visit to our Hampton Roads region. And I then went into media relations and marketing, and eventually became the director of the Hampton Convention and Visitor Bureau in 2015. So it's a pleasure to represent Hampton, but also to be a part of this exciting region.
25 years, time certainly does fly while you're having fun, right?
It certainly does.
Mike Vest. Mike, I have talked to you multiple times over the last 4 years, but for those who don't know, Mike is the co-founder and chairman of Lionsbridge FC, a professional soccer team competing in USL League 2 that calls Newport News home. Again, on social media, at Lionsbridge FC. They are very active, so you can follow them. But Mike, the same question to you. What gets you excited about the future of sports here in Hampton Roads?
Well, I think we've already touched a little bit upon it. I think, there's just so many different elements that we can take advantage of. I think, you mentioned the caliber of players that have come through this area, grown up here, and lots of different sports. Bob, I think earlier mentioned the climate, the venues. I think I think sometimes we, as a market, maybe sell ourselves a little bit short because we've got so many things that so many other markets just don't have. And so I think we've got an opportunity to continue to put things together and elevate the market the perception of the market, and really kind of take our show on the road and show off all the best that Hampton Roads has to offer.
There's certainly a lot of assets out there that we can highlight through sports. Rounding out our panel today is Claudel Clark. Claudel Clark is the current executive director of the Hampton Roads Sports Commission, former Norfolk State University baseball coach. You can follow the Hampton Roads Sports Commission on social media at HRSC 757. Claudel, one more time, same question. What energizes you about sports in the 757?
Well, thank you, Will, and it's great to be a part of this. Just so energized about the ability for sports to bring the region together and sports to promote regionalism. You know, with that said, each one of these cities, each one of these areas has certainly proven itself to host sporting events, but just so excited to see Hampton and Newport News, Suffolk, Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, as we come together more, Norfolk, as we come together more, what magnitude of events we can host, working together as this mega region, so to speak, versus just individual cities. And we've done that before, as Mary mentioned, with the Junior Olympics. So can we have the Junior Olympics continue to be here and host other events of that magnitude? Certainly excited at the prospects of that.
Well, Mary, Mike, and Claudel, I really appreciate you all taking the time to join us today, and we're going to get this discussion kicked off. Mary, I'm going to come back to you. You can start us off. What is your organization's role in bringing sports tourism to Hampton, and how do you go about identifying the events that you want to attract?
Well, first of all, we are a department of the city of Hampton. You know, there are many tourism organizations in our region, and structures vary. You know, some are city departments, some are sales and advertising organizations, you know, or some are just strictly marketing. We do it all. We are a sales, marketing, and promotional organization, and Sports Hampton is a division within our overall Convention and Visitor Bureau. And we're very goal oriented. We all have our sales goals that we strive to meet, and sports division is no different. It's led by our senior sales manager, Brooks Sairstein, who typically is the face of sports for Hampton CVB. And he's not able to be here today, so it's my pleasure to serve in his place. But Brooks works with our sports services and event manager to not only sell, but also to service the events that we bring to our city. And we also have a team of sports coordinators that help to fulfill all those service commitments. We, you know, when we're looking at the events that we want to bring to our city, ultimately, we're looking for events that require room nights. You know, we have a wide range of venues that we've already touched on, you know, from our waterways to Langley Speedway to Boo Williams Sportsplex and Hampton Roads Convention Center, Hampton Coliseum. But ultimately, all of those venues can serve our local community as well as those sports competitions that generate revenue. So we are focused on the revenue-oriented events that we can bring to the city that require overnight rooms, that require, you know, dining and shopping and experiences beyond the venue, beyond the event venue. And it's really one of the most exciting things about our region. You know, somebody else touched on it, but there's not one thing that really rises above everything else in our region. We are a region of versatility, and all of those experiences make Hampton a very desirable, Hampton Roads and Hampton, very desirable market to bring a sporting event.
Claudel, you know, we hear what the CVB's role is in Hampton, and we know that that pretty much mirrors the other CVBs that are in the region. But from the Hampton Roads Sports Commission standpoint, what is the role of a local sports commission?
Good question, Will, and I get this asked a number of times. It's our role really to work with the different cities and work with the different CVBs to also enhance their reach about what's out there. What events can come to the East Coast? What events can come to the Mid-Atlantic? What events can come to the region that can be beneficial in all the ways that Mary described, heads and beds, or economic development, or just sports development of the area, or events that we can bring that we can see the feasibility to make larger as it in Hampton or in Virginia Beach as new facilities have come online. Well, these things have come about because of events that have been bought here, and we saw the future in it. We saw the growth potential. We saw the economic development. So then we go back and run a study in a Norfolk or Hampton or Virginia Beach, Chesapeake even, to build one of these facilities. So the Sports Commission, on top of its unique events that we create and host and execute, it's our job to work with these CVBs to study the feasibility of bringing larger events and constructing venues in these respective cities.
You mentioned a term, regionalism through sports, in your introduction. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about how you would define that and what does that mean to you?
Certainly. The Sports Commission, as a affiliate of the Hampton Roads Chamber, something we push heavily at the Chamber is regionalism. But we think about regionalism as business regionalism, or companies working together, or cities working together for economic development. Well, that's certainly the same with sports. And as we know with the Junior Olympics, or basketball or baseball or softball, a lot of the events that run across our region, people from all over the state and even East Coast and nationally come to our area for these sports. So our tagline and our support to the Chamber as it relates to sports is really, how do we promote regionalism from a sports standpoint or athletic standpoint from the Sports Commission, and what better way than sports? So we've kind of studied, along with these CVBs, as we've mentioned, how do we effectively break down some barriers in different cities, or break down some barriers in different regions as it relates to regionalism by a sporting event? Could we bring political leaders together? Can we bring sponsors together? Can we bring families across city lines and stay in our hotels and eat in our restaurants? And the answer is certainly yes with sports. And we can see it all across the board with our panelists and even our presenting sponsor. So it's our job moving forward to continuously push that regionalism, or those efforts, by the sporting events that we can bring into the area.
Thank you for that, Claudel. And hearing from Mary and Claudel, we hear about how sports tourism can impact the community. But now I want to go over to Mike Vest. And Mike, again, is the CEO of Lionsbridge FC, a professional sports franchise here in Hampton Roads. And we hear all the time the Hampton Roads area doesn't have professional sports, but that's just not true. It's people needing to change their mindset. We have Lionsbridge, we have the Norfolk Tides, we have the Norfolk Admirals, we have VB United, we have plenty of teams. What are the benefits, Mike, that come with having professional teams based here in our region?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, because I think there's really a couple different things that come to mind. I think when you think of other cities, maybe you've never been to Oklahoma City, but you know that they've got an NBA team. Maybe you've never been to Kansas City, but you know they have an NFL and they have Major League Baseball. I think what having professional sports teams does is elevates the market's perception. It elevates the quality of life. I think it brings people together. I know that's going to be a phrase we all probably end up using a lot during the course of this conversation, but it just really does, in a way that very few things and very few aspects of our society is even really capable of doing. It brings people together from all different walks of life. Whatever your background may be, everyone loves going to a sporting event and cheering for something larger than themselves. And that's what professional sports really brings to the table. And so I think from an outside standpoint, you're talking about an elevated brand perception of your market. Every week you're taking your city or your brand or your market or your region on your backs, and you're going somewhere else, and so it's really an opportunity to be almost like an advertisement for your city every single week when you go to road games. But I also, as important as that is, I think that the internal side of this is just as important, if not more, where it really does raise the quality of life in a market, and it gives people activities. I think Bob alluded to healthy lifestyles and really being part of something larger than yourselves. And so we see that at our games every single week when we have fans in the stands people who may never cross paths with each other in any other setting except for at our stadium. And they're all cheering for something together, and it brings people together for a common cause in ways that I just don't think many things can.
If you take the time to learn the full story about Lionsbridge, it could be a whole vision series on its own. It really is a grassroots operation. And in those 4 to 5 years that this has been in your mind, probably even before that, what was your targeted plan to get that community support? Because you went from 0 to 100 pretty quickly.
Yeah, we did. We started it from absolute scratch. We're not affiliated with a youth soccer organization. That was one of the questions we had early on. We're not affiliated with a Major League Soccer organization or anybody else at a different level from a soccer standpoint. We're fully independent, and so I think that made us a little bit nuts to start with. But we weren't crazy. We like to say we were nuts, but we weren't crazy. So I think from a community development standpoint, I think I think our secret formula was just getting out and talking to as many people as we can, and letting people know what we had in mind, and sharing our vision for what we thought a Lions Bridge event day would look like, because it's definitely different than it's definitely different than other soccer entities in particular that maybe people have attended in the past. And then really just getting more and more people involved. We have a different nonprofit organization that we work with every single game. Because we're not a youth soccer organization, we can work with all the different youth soccer organizations and have different kids walking out with our players for the national anthem, and different kids coming out to be the ball kids. And so we really do try to bring in as many different people into the experience as possible, not just as spectators, although that's obviously very important, but also to truly actually participate in the game day experience. And so, when you go back and look at the end of a season, we just completed our fourth season, as you mentioned, the number of people who get involved with Lions Bridge in an active way, as opposed to just more of a passive spectator experience way, it's really pretty remarkable. And I think that's been one of the reasons why it's been successful so far.
Yeah, providing memories such as those is how you create those generational fans, it does get passed on from father to son or daughter or mother, it goes through generations. And we're excited to see the work that you guys will continue to do. Mary, I want to go back to you, because you mentioned, I think a few people have mentioned throughout this, that there are so many assets here in Hampton Roads that we have to attract sports that we really can't pinpoint one. But are there factors, or are there things that the Hampton Roads region can improve upon to be more competitive in bringing in national sporting events?
Yeah, I would say we are always ready and have room for improvement. And among those things, sports requires partnership. It's really all about the relationships. It's about working with the community, the military in the community, the universities, all of those local clubs that we've touched on. But I'd say the more relationships and partnership growing we can do, the stronger we will be in terms of our sports tourism national strength. And so I'd say, working together and collaboratively is something that we should really keep our eye on. Also, volunteer growth. I will say that we are so dependent on volunteers and high school teams. Really, we're very dependent on our youth to deliver many of the services that we commit to delivering. And so I'd say, I don't know that we really have one organization regionally that focuses on building sponsorships for sporting events or building volunteers. I know we do on separate sides of the water, but it would sure be great to have that resource available regionally.
Well, I kind of want to then toss that over to Claudel. Being the Hampton Roads Sports Commission, you obviously represent the entire region. But when you're putting together a proposal or planning for an event, you're dealing with local governments, CVBs, departments of economic development. Give us a look behind the curtain, if you can, into some of the tasks that go on behind the scenes to put a proposal together to attract an event, Claudel, and what are some of the missteps that maybe we've done in the past that we can figure out how to improve upon in the future?
Well, good. I think that, Mary hit it right on the head about partnership. No one person's office has the bandwidth to facilitate some of these larger events. So it's making great partnerships with the cities that you think you're going to, city or cities that you think you're going to have to operate in for a certain event, making great connections with sponsors to sponsor that event, other governmental or municipal partners to also sponsor that, getting your venues aligned, whether it's on the south side of the peninsula, what venues are most advantageous for the event or most fitting for the event that you're trying to have. And once you have that plan together of infrastructure, so to speak, then you can kind of move forward. I think one of the missteps, as you mentioned, sometimes is not this program, this webinar, certainly done a great job of doing that. But can we sell the region better to entities, Perfect Game or wrestling or basketball entities or baseball entities about the wide scope of facilities that we have, not just in one city to support some of these others, because people don't realize a Georgia or a Pennsylvania or a West Virginia, a lot of these places have these hubs or quads of fields for all sports that can better facilitate some of these sports. So if we have those things here, it's our job to communicate that to these large sporting organizations that we certainly can host these things together. We certainly can work together as multiple cities to do that, and we can land some of those larger events. So I think, again, she just hit it right on the head, that partnership of cities working together, the Hampton Roads Sports Commission working to serve as a liaison maybe at times for some of these cities to tell that story, that we do have the facilities that we all have talked about for larger sporting events to come. But having a clear-cut proposal, having clear-cut partnerships, and having a clear-cut offering of deliverables to attract events or organizations in is key to landing that acceptance as we've done with the Junior Olympics and others for us to get more events moving forward.
One thing that I've heard multiple times in the 20 minutes or so that we've been on is partnerships and the importance of partnerships. And we all got introduced to Sarah Buck from Cox earlier in this program. And I want to go to her right now and kind of get her perspective on how Cox views sports as a beneficial platform for their organization, kind of hearing from the business community as opposed to the sports community. So Sarah, if you might be able to provide some perspective on that, that would be wonderful.
Sure, and I think, Will, that, when you look at sports and you look at how, sports brings people together, that's just, you're meeting people in a space where they feel happy and they feel connected. And so when Cox gets involved, it's really from the perspective of keeping people connected in a different kind of way. And so as I mentioned earlier, the Internet of Things just keeps growing and growing and growing. And there's really not an aspect of your life, really, if you can think of that, you're not having some connection. And so if it's following you into your hobbies and the things that you love, that's great. And from a business perspective, certainly if you infuse technology into sporting events and sports gatherings, you're able to support, a food truck down the road or a business that may be able to connect through an app that can offer some kind of couponing or benefit, or it can pinpoint your location and say, hey, have you thought about this? Or hey, stay an extra night here for a 25% discount. There's so many ways that working with the technology side that you can really expand your reach and make that customer or that fan experience really one that they won't forget, and then it will keep them coming back.
We're going to stay on that theme of customer, fan experience, guest experience. Mike, you've built this fan base here in Newport News and really beyond Newport News for Lionsbridge FC. Why did you feel that soccer was going to be the sport that worked here, as opposed to maybe going in a different direction with another sport? You obviously wanted to get into the sports game, but why was it soccer that you chose?
Well, I think, it's a great question. I think with soccer, I think what you find is that it's continuing to grow at a rate faster than any of the other major sports, with all due respect to all of them, because I'm a fan of all of them. I think soccer is unique among spectator sports, if we want to lump them into that category, in the sense that it's got the youngest fan base, it's certainly the most diverse, and it's the #1 sport in the world and has been for quite some time. And so I think soccer has been growing for quite a long time, and it's sort of hit this tipping point now where I think it's been a huge participation sport among kids for decades now. I think we all know that. What's happened now is that I think my generation, I won't completely identify how old I am here, but my generation is probably one of the first ones where soccer's a mainstream sport. We grew up in seeing professional sports that included soccer. Prior to that, prior to 1994, we didn't have professional soccer in America at all, really, not in the outdoor game. And so I think enough time has elapsed where you have generations of families and generations of whether it's adults and kids, obviously just don't know that this didn't always exist, but you've got families of soccer now, and it's on par with everything else. What's not happened yet, and what I think we've seen in the last 5 or 10 years, is more and more cities across America are getting professional soccer, whereas, like I said, in 1994 there were zero. And so Major League Baseball built out, NBA built out, NFL built out. Soccer's not there yet. It's really just still kind of going up and to the right, and it's something that what you find is that there have always been soccer fans, they just haven't had a team. And so now we're able to provide that.
Well, I'm gonna stay with you then for the next question. You mentioned 1994. That was the last time the U.S., the first and last time. I don't know if it was the first, but it was the last time the U.S. hosted the World Cup. 2026, the U.S., Canada, and Mexico are hosting the World Cup, but I think 80% of the matches are going to be here on U.S. soil. What do you see as the future for American soccer, and where does a team like Lionsbridge, that's in USL League 2 currently, fit into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think having the World Cup in your country is an enormous accelerant for soccer. I think, like I said, it was kind of in the absolute background prior to the World Cup being in the United States in 1994. In 1994, it basically was the catalyst for starting an entire professional league, now Major League Soccer, that continues to exist and get stronger and stronger today. And I think, America's in such a different place as it relates to soccer than it was in 1994, because we've got players now who are global stars. We've got the best young American generation we've had right now playing for the top teams in Europe. Obviously, America loves supporting and following winning players. The television exposure and the streaming capabilities for all sports, but especially for sports that maybe didn't previously have that level of exposure, like soccer, is on par with just about everything else now. And so I think in our league, just this past week, I was at our league meetings in San Antonio. And our league is going to be introducing promotion and relegation at some point in the next few years, which for the uninitiated it's a very foreign concept to American sports. But the best way I can describe it is, if you imagine that the Norfolk Tides won the AAA East championship, that they would go to the major leagues and be playing against the Orioles instead of being the farm team for the Orioles. That's what's coming to USL in future years. And it could be a sea change for soccer in America. It generates an unbelievable amount of fan interest, media interest, and so I think we're continuing to see the evolution of American soccer into the global scene, and at the local level, I think it's something that fans are going to continue just to love and embrace.
It is certainly a growing game here, but it's, as you mentioned, quite possibly the most popular sport on the planet and has been for some time. So it's certainly exciting to kind of be on that wave of the future here in the United States. I did want to go back to the visitor and guest experience. And Mary, I'll direct this one to you. We hear these terms a lot as it relates to sport tourism. How can we improve the visitor experience, the guest experience? What are ways a city or a municipality can create that guest experience that keeps events coming back without having to pitch them again?
Number one, just really providing an incredible experience when they're here, letting them know how welcomed and how valued their event is to the city. The city of Hampton strives to do that in a variety of different ways. Number one, we try to be present at every venue, at every competition that the CVB has influenced being brought to the city. We try to have a presence to let people know about all the incredible activities there are to enjoy in Hampton, but also in our neighboring cities. People come from all over the country, and many of them come from landlocked areas. They've never seen the bay, they've never seen the beach or the ocean front. And just letting them know how close and how easily accessible it is, but also, all the other water experiences that are available, here in Hampton Roads. We're so fortunate, but ultimately, making sure that visitor knows that everybody in the city, it's signage in restaurants, it's pole banners, it's, welcome signs at the hotels, it's making sure that the desk is extending the most hospitable experience for that guest. And so, that's something that the CVB is able to help coordinate. And ultimately, again, that goes back to relationships, and it's training, training all of the stakeholders so that they have all those answers too, making sure that everybody knows about all the incredible activities there are in this region for everyone to enjoy.
Mike, I'll bring it back to you for the local side of this. You're really drawing from a local fan base to attend your matches. There probably is a small percentage that are coming from, points out of town, but it's the actual experience at a sporting event these days goes far beyond just what happens on the field. How has Lionsbridge been able to create that game day experience for families?
Yeah, I think what we've tried to do is make sure that we have something at our games for absolutely everybody. You know, there may be, if you think of a family of four, there might be one person in the family who's a diehard soccer fan, and that's what they're there to see. But I can tell you, when we first started Lionsbridge, my son was 3 years old. There was no chance he was going to be watching a soccer match for 90 minutes. And so, you know, there's lots of families who are there with little kids. How can we get fans to stay out for the whole night? So in our case, it was, let's bring out bounce houses for the kids. You know, let's have food trucks for everybody out there that they can basically see it, you know, try something new every single game. So the experience is a little bit different from night to night. We've got the craft beer tent, and then after a lot of the games, we have fireworks. And so, you know, you're trying to make it an event that has something that will be interesting to everybody out there. And then I think you also just got a portion of people who are just like come out and are wowed by the idea of coming out and being in a good sized crowd and cheering on a team, and are maybe learning soccer for the first time or have never been to a game. We get that every single game. Somebody will stop us and say, I've never been out here before. This is so much fun. And I think that we really focus on making sure that we're creating an experience or the opportunity for people to have the experience of having fun. That's because really, if we're not having fun at sporting events, I don't know what we're doing out there.
Fun is the key word. And sports is supposed to be fun, not just for the competitors, but for the people who are attending. I'm actually going to go to a question from somebody who's tuning in. Claudel, I'll start with you, but Mary and Mike, please feel free to jump in on this as well. What's being done currently to unite the Peninsula and the South Side? We've gone through this big rebranding process over the past year or so where we're now the 757, but there is still a lot of that regional tug of war. Is anything being done, and what can be done to make sure that it's not a South Side and Peninsula thing? Claudel, I'll start with you.
Well, I think that's a very good question. And as we talked regionalism through sports, but it's two things that come to mind. Having great relationships with Hampton and Newport News, Williamsburg, and beyond, as we've had events, as we mentioned a number of times, like the Junior Olympics and other things to bring both sides together. You know, but also reaping the benefits of, which is out of our control, those persons on this panel, increased infrastructure. So if you can see the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel being reconstructed, or some of these other routes from the peninsula to the south side being upgraded, you know, that's also helps because, you know, one of the main concerns of a large organization that comes to the beach or comes to the region is transportation to and from. So, you know, we're also reaping the benefits from some infrastructure. But to, again, go back directly to the question, you know, having great relationships with Brooks and his team and the folks from Newport News and Williamsburg and beyond. And then also not just saying we'll have basketball or baseball or other sports on this side and that side. You know, could we not have this NCAA carnival or this AAU carnival or some of these other organizations' carnivals to where multiple cities are needed? So making some of the events that we have larger to span both sides or span the region is also very feasible. So to our caller, to our question, to person posing the question, we're certainly working on these things and certainly looking at ideas to bring both sides of the water together. And those ideas are out there. It's just a matter of us expanding what we're currently doing to have events span both sides.
Sarah, I actually wanted to bring you back in to kind of touch upon that question a little bit and expand upon it. But Claudel's talking about connectivity, and some of these larger events will be happening across the water. The Junior Olympics, for instance, when and if they come back, will be at multiple events throughout Hampton Roads. How important is it for the visitors and the guests to be able to know what's going on at multiple venues, and how can a company like Cox help with that?
Right, so when we were talking about the customer or the fan experience, I got really excited because I was about to raise my hand, so I'm glad you asked the question. But my bonus daughter actually played travel softball. And so I remember even she would go to Colorado, she would play games up on the peninsula, she would play them here on the south side, she would be all over the place, and I couldn't go to every game, right? And so I remember sitting at my desk one day and I had a live stream of the game pulled up on one screen and I was working on the other so I could kind of keep an eye. And I actually got to see her hit her first home run on the screen. And I was able to do that because the park was connected and I was able to tap into that live stream. And so as you can imagine, I was super excited and, you know, instantly went from watching on the screen to reposting the video on social media and sharing it with my family. So, you know, I think that that type of opportunity really makes for that fan experience. And so, you know, if we're able to have these parks and these sports arenas connected, that just opens up the door for so many more connections. And so if you have multiple children and you can't be at all of the events at once, or you want to get in on the action on something but you just can't physically make it, you know, being able to tap in through technology really can help people feel like they're part of the experience, even when they can't physically be there. And I think that's just another notch in the belt for organizations to have that type of connectivity and that type of connection to really elevate the work that they're doing and bringing their fans to a place where they feel like they are connected.
You know, Mary, we're talking about places where we can host these events and then places where you can provide these great experiences. Kind of give us a little bit of insight into a new place that is coming online soon, a new venue, the Hampton, Virginia Aquaplex. One thing that this region has really put a lot of effort into over the last 10 to 15 years is building these venues that provide these sports tourism destinations. So go a little bit into the Hampton, Virginia Aquaplex and how it can be used as a sports tourism venue.
Sure. Well, we're very excited that this time next summer, hopefully we will see the Hampton, Virginia Aquaplex open its doors. So, you know, the city of Hampton had a need for a new community pool, and they considered, the city considered the need of the community, but also what would the benefits, if you will, of bringing competitive aquatics to the city and to the region. And we have other facilities in the region, we certainly do, that have hosted swim meets in the past, but we don't have one that meets USA Swimming's specifications for national competition. And so this facility will actually allow Hampton and the region to host USA Swimming regional and national events. And because it will have 1,500 spectator seats, it'll have a 50-meter pool with movable bulkheads and diving that is rare in the region, 2 1-meter springboards, 2 3-meter springboards, but also a programming pool that will serve the community, also serve as a warm-up facility, and then the entertainment for the families and all those siblings that tend to come along with the youth athlete. With the splashdown water park that will have slides and a lazy river experience. And that facility, the splashdown park, also will serve, you know, as an entertainment venue and an attraction in itself for all the neighboring hotels and for our youth basketball that's playing at the Boo Williams Sportsplex. There are just a lot of positives about this new development. And we're so excited because also it's neighbored by hotels. And so, you know, all these hotels will be within walking distance. It should be a very positive experience. And I have to say, just as a follow-up, Will, to your last question, your previous question, you know, one city can't do it all. Claudel said that earlier. Anything that we book in the city of Hampton, whether it's at the Hampton Roads Convention Center, at Boo Williams, at the Hampton, Virginia Aquaplex, we're very dependent on hotels throughout the region. You know, Hampton has a limited number of hotel rooms. We're very dependent on Newport News hotels, North Suffolk, Norfolk, all of this, you know, that inventory and the experiences around us all contribute to the success of the event.
Working together is a lot more efficient than working apart. One of the things we've talked about a lot, and I'll go back to you, Mary, for this one, is we've talked about sports tourism a lot in this panel, but when you have the Hampton Aquaplex coming online next year, you already have the Boo Williams complex, and then even out in Virginia Beach, we have the new sports center, we have the field house. We're talking about bringing outside events here, but how important is it to also make sure that these venues are open and available to local residents?
It's essential. It's essential, especially when you're talking about growing these athletes and making sure that they're engaged in community and fitness, but also learning to swim. You know, the rate at which people drown in this region is very alarming, considering we're surrounded by water. And so that's a priority for the city manager, for our city council, that all of our grade school age children will have an opportunity to learn to swim. And so therefore they're engaged at a very young age. They build confidence. They know that if they wish to swim competitively, they have the ability to do so. And I think that applies to nearly every activity. I think that's the beauty of youth sports. Those events that come to the region are exposing our community to the possibilities of their own personal involvement.
It's a very exciting time because, as I said, the venues that we have are becoming world class. And so, as a Virginia Beach resident like myself, and as we all live here locally, to be able to use these places that we see investment being put into is extremely exciting. Now, this next question, I'm not going to direct at any one person, but I will need somebody to answer it. This is pretty much the $1 million question that I think we've heard over the last quarter century in this region. And it comes from Kate. And she says, as a lifelong resident of the Peninsula, Middle Peninsula, explain why we cannot attract a professional sports team in the region. Again, I believe she's talking about top level professional sports teams, but this has been kind of our white whale here in Hampton Roads. So I'll just pick 1, 2. Claudel, I'll start with you.
Very good question. Good tough question. But we've had all these great cities working, doing great things. I'll say that people sometimes talking about cities working separately or working independently, but they've done great things. I think that Mike mentioned earlier, Kansas City or some of these other cities that are not much bigger than us. In some research, I didn't realize that, but they're working together with their surrounding regions to be that Kansas City, to be that Denver, to be that certain city. We have to market ourselves as this singular region when you talk about a professional sports team. And only when we do that will we be able to provide the concessions that a sports team asks for. People think it's no more than building an arena or making a bid and then having a basketball team or a football team or a soccer team. It's much more than that. Cities have to come together to provide all sorts of needs that the team demands. So it's a matter of our community leaders, our community stakeholders, our CBB personnel all coming together when that takes place or when that desire takes place again, to say, hey, look, we have the resources, we have the infrastructure, we have this bid package of sorts that we're ready and willing to put up to attract this team. And then and only then will that become a reality.
Knowing what we know now and how much cost goes into attracting a top level professional sports franchise, but also seeing the assets we currently have in place, should we focus more on utilizing the assets that we have and finding other revenue streams through sports as opposed to top level professional athletics?
Well, again, it's just those community leaders coming together to say, which direction are we going to go? You have a number of persons who are here, even people who have played professionally, who advise cities on these things to say, look, let's keep this organic, let's keep this regional, let's keep this local, and develop the ties, develop, the different entities on the beach or the peninsula, and develop what it is that we have. And you have people from the school of thought to say, let's bring this professional sports team here and get us further on the map. It's just a matter of, who you're polling and who is kind of leading this charge. I think ultimately in time, I think it will come to having a professional sports team here because the leagues are trying to expand. The leagues are looking for greater markets. The leagues are looking to enhance and involve new young people from all over the country. And I think as, again, infrastructure gets better, I think as connectivity, as Sarah mentioned, gets better, and I think as the area continues to develop economically, I do think that ultimately will happen. And I think that, the cities will work together, appreciate it, and benefit from that sports team being here.
Mike, as an owner of a professional sports franchise locally, how far is your reach? Like when you're talking with people in the stands, because I know you do, I've seen you out there doing it. You're kissing babies, shaking hands, doing all of this. How far is Lionsbridge reach? Where are the fans coming from that are coming from out of town?
Yeah, I mean, well, you mentioned this earlier. We're not pulling from a lot of people from out of town today. Our fans are coming from Hampton Roads, and it's a mix. It's a surprisingly I think we always imagined in the beginning that it would be Peninsula based, but it's not. We're pulling people from all over the 757 today. I think that as you go up the levels, if you will, and I know we're kind of not distinguishing between major league and professional. But certainly as you go up the level and the closer you get to the major leagues, that will happen because there's going to be more media exposure, both at a local level, but also at a national level. The league that we participate in is, like I said, USL. They've got an ESPN deal where all the games at the professional level are streamed on their platforms. And so the attention will come with that. But I wanted to go back to the question about that. I think you mentioned that Kate mentioned about bringing major league sports to the area. We are, I mean, this is just reality of the situation. We're the second largest market in the country not to have major league sports. So we're certainly on the list. I think the largest one is West Palm Beach, but that's, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's Miami. So, I mean, we're right there. And Jacksonville and Oklahoma City are, if you look at the DMA rankings, I think I might be getting this backwards, but Oklahoma City, I think, is one slot higher than us, and Jacksonville is one slot smaller than us. And both of those have professional, I'll stop saying that, professional, major league teams, right? They're in the NFL, they're in the NBA. So we could be that. I think the thing that also gets lost is that those opportunities, even if we had everything all teed up and lined up and ready to go, you need a league that's ready to expand. And that just doesn't happen very often. I mean, Major League Baseball hasn't expanded in a long, long time. The NBA has, but it's rare, and it's usually a makeup call for a team leaving a city that it shouldn't have when it left Seattle to go to Oklahoma City. So I think typically what you see is a lot of relocations. That's probably where the opportunities will exist. But the reason why a team might be relocating is probably because they don't have a facility that is suitable for major league sports anymore. And I think, certainly, you can probably count those cities on one hand that don't have that are in major leagues today. So I think it can happen, but you have to have a league that's ready to expand. And at the risk of sounding like a little bit of a homer, I think the only sport that's doing that in any kind of concerted effort right now is in soccer. So I think if it's ever going to happen, it probably will happen in soccer. But you do need a lot of things to go right, even from the outside, much less what happens on the inside.
And you also look at, too, the biggest thing when you look at Major League Baseball, it's 81 home games you have to facilitate. NHL, NBA, it's 40. Soccer is I believe, 20. I believe right. The season is around 40 games. So you're looking at 20 games to get people there. And so it's a matter of where can you bring those people from. And I think having worked in the media before, one of our, I guess, disadvantages is because we're a shared market, we are vast. We don't have that one centralized location. Doesn't mean it can't happen. But I do think that's on the professional sports side, that's where we have a disadvantage. But on the sports tourism side, being so vast and having these venues, I think that's what helps us. And Mary, I'll go back to you, kind of getting back into that sports tourism conversation. When stakeholders are looking for a site to host their events, what are you finding is most important to them? Is it geography? Is it cost? Is it venue? Is it all of the above or something I'm not even mentioning?
It's all of the above, definitely. It's really a formula of, it's the venue, it's what's around the venue, it's accessibility, it's transportation, it's entertainment, it's great food. All of these things factor in. And ultimately with youth sports or sports tourism, for the most part, it's family travel. So they may have a youth athlete, but they're turning that visit or that competition into a family vacation. So all of those things factor in, and it means great revenue for our region. The economic impact is incredible.
Claudel, I'm going to go back to you for this question from Thomas, who's watching. How do you anticipate the new Norfolk and Portsmouth casinos influencing sports activity across Hampton Roads? Do you see them as potential sponsors that can also support local and regional sports initiatives?
Well, I first of all think that, very good question. I first of all think that these things are about getting you on the map. So I do think the casinos, from a exposure standpoint, get the area on the map even more. So as Mary said, or Mike, when you're having an entity explore your area or examine your area for bringing their event to the region, could the casinos help? Certainly another attraction, more restaurants, more entertainment for the parents that would be there. With going back to Thomas's question, the casinos will also, I think, would be great partners in a Norfolk or a Portsmouth to support the supports that would be there. So again, this is from an adult standpoint, and obviously the kids would benefit from that. But certainly by putting sports on the map, by putting the area on the map even more, it would support the sports. And going back to Mike's point, very good point. You have to position yourself so well and be so attractive for when one of these teams wants to relocate or have you as a potential candidate. Certainly the casinos would elevate our status, so to speak, from this public standpoint for a sports team to maybe want to come here. So I think it's a positive as it relates to one day attracting a major sports team and helping the sports teams and organizations as a whole that are here.
I'm going to go back. I see Bob popped up, so I think we have time for one more question. Sarah, I'm actually going to bring this back to you. Going back to your experience with your bonus daughter and being able to watch her on the screen while you're working, we're talking about Lionsbridge FC today. We're talking about sports tourism events. We're even talking about professional teams that we have locally. What is there a plan, or is it already in place for Cox to maybe expand its enterprise to be able to allow people to watch and connect to all of these teams, whether it is high school, youth, all the way up through professional sports?
Sure, I think that those types of things are always on the table and open for discussion. I know there was a question in the Q&A also about how we used to have our local teams go out and cover high school sports. And really it's our local team, it's Your View is the name of the station. It used to be Cox 11 and it's switched over. But the programming there, I think that if the appetite is there for that kind of programming, that's something we can certainly look into. But as you know, the viewership, if you can't be there in person, being able to tap into it, whether you're streaming or watching a replay on a dedicated channel, it's certainly something our technology can support. I think it's just a matter of having those conversations and finding out where those partnerships exist to see what we can do to meet the needs of the community.
Ever-changing landscape, sports, technology, business community, collaboration, it's always changing. I'd like to thank every single one of you for joining us today. Sarah Buck, Claudel Clark, Mary Frugeri, Mike Vest. There's certainly a lot of good happening here in the 757 in terms of sports, but we also have a lot of opportunities to improve, and we're looking forward to what we can do today and tomorrow. At this point, I'd like to pass it back to Bob McKenna to wrap up sports in the 757.
Great. Thank you very much. That was a fantastic conversation. And I have one quick question for Mike Vest. Mike, you talked about soccer being the fastest growing sport and maybe the one that has potential growth for new venues from a major league standpoint. How about competitive eating? Can't we get Joey Chestnut to come down here and maybe do a big professional eating event?
I do think Coney Island has planted a flag in that, but I think we got to compete.
Absolutely, we should go for that. I'll talk to you offline about that.
Very good.
All right, so there's a couple of remaining questions. We don't have time to take those, but the people who asked those questions, if you could shoot an email to Elisa Campano on my staff, and we'll get it to the panelists and get you an answer. So great conversation once again. Let me just say from a regional standpoint, somebody asked a question about how do we work together regionally better. We're doing our part here, and I'm working very closely with Brian Stevens at the Hampton Roads Chamber. But you'll notice that the name of this series is not Peninsula Vision, it's 757 Vision. So we really are trying to expand to encompass the entire Hampton Roads region. And today's panel included Claudel Clark from the South Side. The moderator, Will Driscoll, is based on the South Side. Cox covers both. And then we have two from the Peninsula. So we really are working better regionally now than ever. And we will continue to collaborate to make things great for everybody. So thanks once again to our distinguished panelists and to our moderator. Will, you did a great job. I'm sure that many of our viewers today feel very passionate about this topic today, and I'm sure that you're also fired up and ready to take some action to ensure the successful future of our community and our economy and workforce. The Peninsula Chamber, in partnership with various partners, including those on the South Side, would like to help facilitate action moving forward. So stay tuned for more on that, and stay tuned for future events. and please send me your thoughts. In closing, I'd like once again to thank Cox Virginia, Clancy and Thays Construction, and the Hampton, Virginia Aquaplex for sponsoring today's event and making it possible. Thanks to you all for joining us, and we'll see you all again soon and in person. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.